This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's pod. This is the show for the week of August 15th, 2022. And if you're watching, you might notice that Phil is not here. We have our friend Zach filling in. And that's not a pun, I just realized. Phil's away on assignment, I think they call it in the business. He's on vacation this weekend. So Zach was lovely enough to volunteer for us. Zach, how you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Jason. How are you? And hello, everyone.
Yes, Zach's back. I'm doing good. We're doing a podcast. We're talking about Disney. It's Monday night. I'm happy. So this week in our Disney World, we're going to talk about our top 5 best times to be in the parks. I think this is an interesting one because I also wanted to do some of the worst times to be in the parks, but I wanted to keep it positive because Zach's here. He doesn't hear me drone on and on about my curmudgeon. We got some money talk from Chapek and in just kind of like standard business news. So kind of giving an idea. There's some other things kind of crackling on in the background about different investors and strategies for Disney. That's kind of popping up on, if you're a CNBC kind of viewer. We're not going to talk about here. That's kind of boring. We're going to start off what's happening in our Disney World with some of the news and whatever everybody else is talking about. So the first things first, Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party started this week.
Yay!
I always get a chuckle when the pumpkins come out in August. But did they start earlier this year, or just basically around the same time as they did the last time they started early? I can't remember if they started the Boo Bash early last year or not.
I think it's around the same time. It may be about a week or so earlier than normal. I think Disney just keeps getting a week earlier every single time.
That's it. So a lot of the stuff is back as usual, right? I don't think they're really cutting a lot of stuff. I've seen a lot of pictures and videos. It looks like 2019 all over again with the party.
Boo to You Halloween Parade, arguably the best Walt Disney World parade, looks to be back to normal. As well, it's its first time back as well. I don't think they did it last year during the after hours party. The fireworks show's back. That seemed the same. The Jack Skellington makes an appearance. And then
it's good to see something back like normal, right? Like this is the full offering. It's like they're asking more money than ever, right? But at least you're getting the full plate, I guess, if you want to call it, right? So that's always good.
Did you see the videos and pictures of Powerline Max?
I saw them. I mean, that doesn't impact me as much as I know it impacts a lot of other people, but I thought that was pretty cool. Especially his costume.
I'm excited to see him.
Well, why don't you explain, in case someone hasn't seen him, why don't you explain what was going on there?
So I think it's usually before the parade in years past. I believe the last Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween party, they did something with Zootopia. And this year they've kind of changed it up a little bit. It only happens on Main Street, though, where they do like this little dance party while they're waiting for the Boo to You parade to kind of get to you after the Headless Horseman goes by, which I hear he's back also this year.
Awesome.
So Max comes out, a bunch of entertainment cast members come out, they do this huge street party, and then they make their way down the parade route on Main Street into Town Square while Boo to You is starting over in Frontierland.
Very cool. Yeah, it looks awesome. It's just the park seems alive with characters. There's an entertainment going on. So whether or not you're getting your money's worth for the park, Disney's actually putting the effort to make sure that you're having an awesome time. And I think a lot of people are. Everybody's it's all getting very, very good reviews from the people that have been going so far.
Yeah, I'm excited to go. When that is, I still don't know, but hopefully I'll get there at some point this Halloween season.
And we'll be talking about that later in our engagement section towards the end of the show, which everybody was kind of chiming in on Discord about that. Next bit of news is a lot of Chapek conversations he was having on CNBC. There's a lot of people. There's a thread on WDW Magic about this and how they want to revolt and dump everybody out and all this type of stuff. And I mean, he's talking to investors, right? That's the context in what it says. And one of the things said the tickets may go up in price. I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but he basically says if demand warrants it, prices will go up. I mean, to me, that's just kind of business 101. Like, if there's enough people that want to pay those prices, they will. It's not like he's going to go and say, he never said, I'm going to raise prices from $120 to $220. I mean, that's not going to happen. But you'll see normal price increases because that's happened every single year forever. To me, that was like kind of like a non-statement. How did you take it, Zach, when you kind of see people buzzing around on that one?
It happens every year around the same time.
Yep. So, I mean, it's just getting more. It's more newsworthy, I guess, because everybody might dislike Chapek more than anybody else. So they want any excuse they have of making some noise, I suppose.
I mean, it kind of just sounds like the parks may start doing the cruise line method. The cheapest time to ever purchase a Disney cruise vacation, or any cruise vacation for that matter, is when the itineraries drop.
It's always yesterday.
That's the cheapest point. And as the ships fill up, the price increases.
That's it. I mean, I was talking with a friend of the family. We were at the pool, and she's like, "Oh, I might want to do Disney next year in May." I'm like, "Well, if you even if you're thinking about it and you don't mind putting a $200 hold, book them right now, and because it'll be the cheapest it'll ever be." And that was true in 2019. That was true in 2018. I remember for my 2019 trip, we booked that, 8 or 9 months in advance, and a whole suite of discounts came out, et cetera, with the rack rate minus the room discount. My rack rate that I got 8 months earlier was cheaper than the discounted rate. So if you've got $200 that you don't mind kind of just putting on hold, book it as soon as possible. That's my advice for everybody.
Yeah.
So another piece of news, they were talking about parks revenue. I think the actual term is Disney Parks Experience and Products. They are up about $3 billion from last year. Not that it really counts from last year, because last year was kind of getting back to normal, so to speak, I suppose. But they went from $4.3 billion to $7.4 billion. And me, being the amazing reporter, did not do any reporting on this, and the amazing Zach looked it up. What did they do in 2019, we think, from what we read? Same quarter, Q3.
And what we read, it says that Disney Parks Experiences and Products did $6.5 billion in revenue. So that is about...
1B bigger.
I can't do the math. Yes, almost about.
1.1, 7.4 down to 6.5. So it's about $900 million less. And I think a lot of that has to do with, obviously, demand, but like people are spending more money. I mean, obviously, you've got inflation, you've got all the other stuff from 3 years ago, but you've got Genie Plus people are paying for, you've got Lightning Lanes people are paying for, and those have been going on for almost one whole year at this point. So that's
You're right. We are approaching.
Yep, Disney wants people, either less people in the parks, but the people that are in the parks are spending more money to overcome the people that aren't spending money in the parks.
And on top of the Genie Plus and Lightning Lane subject, I believe Bob Chapek also said that half of Walt Disney World visitors are purchasing Genie Plus on any given day. So that is a lot of money going in. That's a lot of free Genie money. Plus.
I mean, like that, you're going from FastPass Plus to Genie Plus. That's I don't know how many millions of people times $15. I mean, that's a good chunk of change every single day for basically doing nothing.
And individual Lightning Lanes for Rise sell out every day, as well as individual Lightning Lanes sell out for Guardians every day. So
Flight of Passage does sell out most days too, for the most part. So I mean, they're making money hand over fist. And maybe this will be a topic for another week, as kind of if any kind of noise comes out. This is when you go to D23. We'll talk about this later, right? So you're going to D23 next month.
I am.
Yep, and you're going to see all sorts of cool announcements, and then when you get back, we'll have you on and you do a debrief of everything that's going on. And I think hopefully we can get a sense of what they're investing in the parks. If anything, I'm very, very glass half empty kind of guy on this announcement. There's a lot of people glass half full. We'll see if I'm being overly cautious on that one. But anyway, topic for another day at that point. Another comment that was in some of Chapek's comments is some of the rises in revenue earned in Disney World were partially offset by unfavorable attendance mix at Disneyland Resort, which got everybody kind of riled up, meaning it's all going back to the Magic Key passes that Disneyland Resort is not renewing, or the blackouts and all the other stuff. And it kind of comes down to this. Anybody that has an annual pass, they always get their backs up because Disney doesn't want people with annual passes coming in because they don't spend as much money, which from a business point of view is absolutely a good way to say it, but you never speak that out loud. I mean, that's not very good PR. It's like as somebody that's been local everywhere in the States, does that something like that affect you? Is that just kind of like whatever and you just keep on going with your day? How do you feel when you hear something like that? Does that bother you?
Not necessarily. However, in terms with the Magic Key, not necessarily with renewals supposedly, hopefully coming for everyone that has Magic Keys. Speaking as someone who actually was born and raised in Southern California, going to Disneyland his entire young life, Disneyland is a locals park. It very much is a locals park, which means everyone there has the annual passes or Magic Keys, what they're now called out there. So it's not necessarily, even though people do travel to Disneyland, I'm doing it next month and very excited to go home. But it's not the same demographic that comes to Walt Disney World. Walt Disney World is very much a lot of first-time visitors. Come once, they save a lot of money to make their once-in-a-lifetime Disney vacation. Yes, there are people that have annual passes here at Walt Disney World, but it's not, I believe, the same number.
The percentage is a lot lower.
It's not the main source of people coming into the parks
right
here in Florida.
To me, it's like you've got a lot of loyal customers, and it would be nice to see Disney World or Disneyland Resort or just the whole parks experience kind of throwing a bone to the people that spend a lot of time and money over time, I guess, at the parks. And it's not, I mean, if I was an annual pass holder, it wouldn't be much. It'd be like, you give me a free magnet here and there. You give me like an annual pass day where maybe you let me into the parks a half hour early or something else like that. That would be kind of cool. Everybody that's an annual pass would love it because you don't need much if you're a Disney fan. You just need to be in the parks, right? And go on a couple rides, and you're a happy person. So
yeah, and there are many times that I go into the park, I walk around, and I leave.
Yeah, that's what I would do.
It's just, it's just a place to go. Us Disney fans, we just, like you said, we want to be there. If we spend money, yeah, I mean, might be walking around the shops at Disney Springs or downtown Disney there at Disneyland and be like, oh, that looks cool. I haven't seen it yet, and it's my favorite Disney character. Okay, I'm going to buy it.
Right.
And it's always nice to have that little discount on top of it.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I want to stop you there because this would have been a good segue if I planned it better for our topic of the day, locals versus out of state kind of guests. But we got one more thing. What everybody else was talking about that was brought up to me was there's some Genie Plus changes in park hopping, and this kind of rose up to the realm of what's going on in Diz Twitter and stuff like that, and then kind of went away. And some of the changes were, and I didn't even knew you could do this, was apparently if you were park hopping, you could book a Genie Plus for another park before 2 o'clock, and somehow it would allow you to not go into the parks earlier, but like access rides. I don't know exactly what it did. When I did my park hopping and Genie Plus, strategies, I always waited for like the perfect time to kind of book it. And I think the only thing that might affect me is when I try to book like a 1:30 Genie Plus reservation so I can use it immediately when I get into the parks. I think I only did that once, but everything else was basically right on time for hopping for the most part. So I think this is them just kind of fixing a bug in the system. But again, there's plenty of people that want to complain about everything. So this kind of, you were mentioning before the show that this probably wouldn't ever affect you as somebody that's local. Is that right?
Probably not. I'll give an example. A few weeks ago, I had a friend in town purchased Genie Plus, purchased a bunch of individual lightning lanes because, trying to maximize the time on 2 days. And with that, started the day in Epcot, was able to get a Genie Plus lightning lane reservation for Ratatouille at, I think it was around 11 that we got. By the time we were able to use that, we were going to hop to Hollywood Studios, and I'm like, I'm going to start just banking on lightning lane reservations in Hollywood Studios. And at that point, a lot of the reservations were about that 3 o'clock time frame. So I kind of started with Tower of Terror. 2 hours later, got Rock and Roller Coaster. 2 hours later, got, I believe, Mickey and Minnie's, all within like an hour and a half of each other, from like 3 o'clock to 4:30.
But it was after that 2 o'clock range anyway, right?
Exactly. So I think it mainly affects those that start doing it to start their day.
Yeah.
That way, you, like, say you don't want to get a lightning lane for the park you're going to first, for example. I do wonder, though, with the individual lightning lanes, I think those have also...
No, this was...
Is this just Genie Plus, or...
The article says Genie Plus lightning lane selections, not individual lightning lanes, because I made individual lightning lanes for the afternoon in my popping to park when I went. That would have affected my... Like, I got Rise early because I knew I was attempting to get to Hollywood Studios in the evening. But I don't think it would stop you from spending... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I think the individual lightning lanes also have that thing where you're park hopping to the park that you can't get anything before 2.
And you can select your time anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference on that side.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I think the only time you would probably want to try to book early for the hopping to park is if you are doing like the trick where you reserve Epcot and you want to get to Magic Kingdom at night, and for some reason if you're not an annual pass holder and you're like a guest, like you should always be able to get into the Magic Kingdom most days unless it's like Christmas or something else like that. And then you're like, I'm going to just start booking early, and it's just you're not going to be able to do it. You have to wait until they start opening up. So most of the time, the parks, the lightning lanes that you want to get are going to be as soon as like 11 o'clock hits. Those lightning lanes that you really want are in the evening anyway at that point. It's very rare that they're available, unless it's like Epcot. And then at that point, it really does make a difference.
I would say Hollywood Studios moves the fastest, followed by Magic Kingdom. However, with my experience with Magic Kingdom, like Big Thunder usually isn't past 2 o'clock with my experience until about 11:30 or 12.
That's about right, yep.
And same thing with like Splash might be a little earlier, depending on how hot it is outside. Space might be the same.
The only thing that you can't get readily at the Magic Kingdom is Jungle Cruise, Remy's, obviously at Epcot, and then basically any of the rides at Hollywood Studios are really tough to get. But yeah, Genie Plus strategies are still holding strong. This doesn't really change anything for anybody. If you're a normal guest that's showing up mid-morning and just start using it, you're not going to see it. If you are a power planner like I am, you are probably booking them after 2 o'clock anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. So nothing to panic about here. I don't think they're really altering how it really works. All right, so let's move on. Just to remind everybody on our social media, you can find us everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, our YouTube channel, TikTok at the DBC Pod. So it's the same across all different platforms. Make sure you hop into our Discord server and join the conversation if you haven't already. Like and subscribe if you are watching this, and just leave a comment. It could be anything. It could be just like the number 1, and that works for YouTube. YouTube likes engagement and helps us get us in front of other people, and you guys have been doing that, so we appreciate your efforts. So then we want to move on to today's topic. I'm not going to do it out of order like I did last week. So And I thought since we had Zach on, it would be the perfect opportunity. He was trying to give me all this content that we could do because he's now a world traveler. He's been to Malawi. He's going to California next month. And he's like, let's talk about it. It's like, no. We'll have you on specifically for those events when they happen. But I wanted to talk about local versus out of state, right? Because Phil and I had a conversation. What would you do? Would you ever move down to Florida to be closer to Walt Disney World? And I'm like, I don't know if I can move like right now unless I had like, it was my summer home and I can have like 2 homes and be able to afford something nonsense like that. So, Zach, you've been, like you said, you've been local at Disneyland. You're local now at Walt Disney World. First, I want to ask you, what is the difference between being a local at Disneyland and being a local at Disney World as far as just park habits? Is there anything that stand out, or is it basically the same?
I have to be conscious enough if I want to park hop.
Okay.
That's the big one. Disneyland, they're about the distance of less than 100 yards from each other, maybe
right
like
next
50,
to each other.
more like 50 yards to walk from Disneyland to California Adventure. Here, it's nice to have my own car that I can drive.
Sure.
Sometimes, even though sometimes I'll still end up taking the Skyliner or the monorail, maybe even the bus. Just depends how I'm feeling and what adventures I go on for the day. But
what you're doing in the parks is it basically the same? You go in for a couple rides, you leave. You go in for some shopping, you leave. You go in for a walk, and you leave. Is the park, is it different depending on the coast, or is it basically your habits are roughly the same?
I would say habits are roughly the same. When I was a local at Disneyland, I usually didn't go until about 5 p.m. at night because I just loved the nightlife at Disneyland so much. Here, I would say it's roughly the same. I do like the nightlife a little bit more. We'll talk about that more a little later. But here, it's more like, depends on the park I'm at. If I'm going to Epcot, might just kind of walk around a little more. So it depends if I want to get on a ride, but like most people, I think everyone has their maximum amount that they're willing to wait for an attraction. So being a local, you kind of look at the wait times maybe a little bit differently as someone traveling here and be like, I don't feel like waiting 30 minutes for Spaceship Earth right now. I'll come back tonight when it's a walk-on.
There you go.
Or
well, see, now my follow-up question is for that is okay. So now you've had a lifetime of experience having easy access to the parks. Let's say now next month you move to New Jersey, Ohio, I don't know, Washington State, and you only get to go to the parks now. Let's just say Disney World because that's where you are right now. How do you think your park habits would change? What would you prioritize if, like, let's say, okay, it's been 2 years since you've moved and it's your first time back. How is your vacation different than it is now? Because once you're done, I'm going to talk about what happens if I move down to be a local. What do I do? So I'm curious about somebody who's been like a lifetime of easy access. What happens if now it's like a once or twice a year type of thing?
Well, I will say this. For those of you listening, you may not realize this, but here I am. I'm wearing a Kansas City Chiefs hat right above me here. I did spend about 8 years in Kansas City.
Only 8 years.
Only 8 years, I know. But anyways, I actually did have a fair share of traveling down here as well, to Florida. Even also traveling out to California during that time. And my travels were a little bit different. I wasn't necessarily a local to Florida yet, but I was starting to come a little bit more every single year, starting in like the 2015 time frame, would come down maybe 4 times a year. And it kind of got to the point where I would really try to not travel down here for less than a week.
That makes sense. Okay.
To Florida. Disneyland was more maybe like 4 or 5 days just because it's smaller, more compact, easier to get around and try and do all my favorite things or as much as possible. Walt Disney World, it's a different beast. It's very, very large.
Yes.
So kind of a week was like my time frame and just what I like to do. I would try to maybe park hop. I was in the parks from rope drop to close almost every single night, and trying to see one of the fireworks shows. Wishes was still around, and then Happily Ever After came around. Then
So-
Illuminations.
Well,
Rest in
let's put it
peace,
this way. So, like, yes, but okay. So, but that was your past, right? So that was like, a good time. But now you can go and do it whenever. I mean, we met, right? To check out
We did.
Harmonious.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. So you can't. We hung out. We walked around World Showcase until almost everybody was gone, and that was awesome. That would be like a typical night for you, right? You go meet friends, or you just kind of like, I got done with work. I just kind of need to decompress, type a little bit, and just enjoy the show, enjoy the music, that type of thing. But now, after doing that, you've been down there for what, almost 3 years at this point?
I've been down here for more than 3 years now.
Okay, I'm sorry. Well, many years then. Many years. For some reason, I had 2.5 years stuck in my head. I don't know why. So you've been down there for...
It's just up of 3 years.
Yeah, okay. So there you go. And in any case, you've gotten used to this lifestyle now at Disney World.
Yep.
Let's say tomorrow you pack your bags and somebody offered you $1 million to go do some work in, I don't know, somewhere cold. And that you only got a chance to get down because you now have this crazy, super serious job or whatever. You can't get down 4 times a year. So you get to do it once. Like, what do you do? So it's been a year. You're going back to Disney World for the first time in a year. How are you prioritizing your trip now? This is the future version of Zach.
Well, I started
Kansas
Animal
City,
Kingdom.
Okay,
I started
of course.
Animal Kingdom as
course.
it's my favorite Walt Disney World theme park. It always has been. I'm not biased.
We could
But-
talk about that at a later date.
Okay. A lot of it will be doing a lot of my favorite things. Expedition Everest being my favorite ride at Animal Kingdom. Festival of the Lion King being my favorite show. I'm a huge entertainment person, so entertainment pretty much in any of the parks I'm seeing. Probably will go back to the same utilization of park hopping. For example, Animal Kingdom doesn't have a nighttime show right now, so then I'd probably park hop to Epcot and see Harmonious, which I absolutely love. I think it is a wonderful show. Or go see Enchantment at Magic Kingdom, which is also very much growing on me. And just in many ways, kind of the same way, going back to old times, I'd actually probably purchase Genie Plus and individual Lightning Lane as well, to try and maximize my time.
So it sounds like you'd basically be a version of me. Like this is my vacation. You're making sure you hit all your highlights, but you're also going heavy in the parks, right? So like you're not wasting a single minute. You're going back to what you were doing when you were in Kansas City when you came into town, because it sounded like you're not changing anything. So now,
Exactly. Like, for example, like when I go to California in just a few weeks and head over to Disneyland, this is probably going to be my strategy. I might not purchase individual Lightning Lane because we have Rise of the Resistance out here, and I think out there at Disneyland it's Rise of the Resistance, and
I don't even know.
I forget what it is in California Adventure. I need to look that up.
Good point. But yeah, I mean, like you're not doing anything differently at that point, right? You're still hitting up the old notes. Because I'm thinking, so like when I go down, and when I went down with my wife about a month ago, we hit the parks hard, and every time I go, I learn something new about how I want to do the parks differently next time, right? But nothing really changes. And I'm thinking if I were to magically then just start going down and it's a 10-minute ride or whatever it might be, and I have an annual pass, I can go in and out. I think I'd very much do less rides, and I take advantage of the dining more than anything else, because I'm a big foodie. I love eating out, or if with all my kids, hey, let's go around Epcot, everybody gets a snack, that's your dinner, and then maybe go on one ride and leave. I mean, I would go and do Magic Kingdom, but only come in at, like, let's say if the park's open till, let's say 11, like it was in July, I'd come in at like 7 o'clock, stay for 2 hours with the kids on a summer night, and leave. And while I'm thinking about our December trip, and my wife's probably not going to let me go crazy at the park, staying there as much as stuff. So the fact that we did so much in July, come December, I'm not going to have that urgency to be able to hit all the high notes again. If I don't do certain things, I'm going to be okay with that, because it's going in July and then going 5.5 months later is as close to being a local as ever. That's like the closest like in between trips I've ever done, I think, in a 5-month span. And I think I can stop and smell the roses a little bit, assuming Genie Plus allows me to do that. If people haven't heard my trip report things, it's the mental space that Genie Plus had. I think that's one of the other lessons I've learned, that if I was a local, I wouldn't have to deal with that madness. And if I could just spend $15 on myself at the parks, maybe once a week, the price of maybe 2 Starbucks drinks, or maybe just 1 Starbucks drinks, that's what I would do. I don't think I would have touring plans. And I'm envious of you being able to just kind of like, oh, today I'm just going to walk around Animal Kingdom and then go to lunch at home, and that's it. And just kind of do something like that. And the only thing I'm worried about, and I don't know if it would ever happen to me, is that do you take the magic for granted? And I don't think I would, but it seems like you certainly don't, because you still like enjoying going in there and just being there. Did you lose anything from having, I guess, easy access or cheap access? I don't know what you want to call it. Did anything lose for that kind of, or did something change? Did it something different? For those that are just, well, hold on, I gotta just warn everybody that's listening. Zach likes to collect his thoughts before he goes in there. So people that are watching see his wheels turning. For those that are listening, Zach is prepping hard for this answer, and I appreciate that.
Yes. Does it change?
Yes.
Yes. Does it ever get old? No.
So I like that. That's a targeted answer. So what changes?
You see things differently. And like if you're traveling down here, for example, it's a travel destination. But if you're a local, it's home. So you feel like you feel a little bit a sense of like it's home, and it's like you don't like seeing change. And when change does happen, it can, that's the one thing I've had to learn. I absolutely loved and adored Illuminations. It is my favorite Disney nighttime fireworks show ever made. And just a little bit ago, all of you heard me say that I absolutely love Harmonious.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Harmonious and Illuminations are not the same show.
No.
But I think they both very well fit in Epcot.
Well said.
And so that's kind of, you get to see the parks transform. You get to see the parks in a different way.
Evolve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, for example, like I've even evolved. Even when I was traveling down here, I was wanting to say there's actually a few people in our Discord community, you know who you are, that when I was traveling down here back in the Fast Pass Plus days, it was a whole lot easier to write itineraries, make itineraries, and the more you traveled down here, the more you could kind of figure out what you could get done in a day. And if you didn't get it done, you weren't necessarily upset because, yeah, I made some really crazy itineraries, and they didn't always work out, but there were some people that saw my itineraries in our Discord community, and if they want to share more in the chat on our Discord community at DBC Pod, feel free to. But
well, I shared my itinerary with Genie Plus on some of the different forums, and everybody was like, how did you do that? I mean, like, it's easy. It's a lot of work. Just like in the Fast Pass Plus days, learning when the new Fast Passes dropped at a certain time of the day, and how to refresh and do all that, especially if you're traveling with just one or two other people versus a family of 5. It was always more difficult, but you can get some crazy things done.
You can. I think on the max amount of Genie Plus I've gotten in a day is 8, and that's park hopping from Hollywood Studios to Epcot to Magic Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. That's the difference between Fast Pass and Genie Plus, though. The Genie Plus is like the old system where you would go and get the paper Fast Passes from the kiosks, and you never know what time is actually coming out unless you see the board right in front of the attractions.
Right.
It's kind of what Genie Plus is. You have no way of really planning because you don't know what the other guests in the park are going to grab. Especially when you're on that 2-hour window, you will see the time pop up. But when you're on that 2-hour window, everyone else is too. So they're all grabbing that same time. So you might get a time that's 30 minutes later.
Unless you do a strategy where you get off that 2-hour window. That's
exactly.
That's thing. Anyway, everything always. I'm going to call it devolve because we're devolving into a Genie Plus discussion when you were talking about the changes at the parks. I can't. That's my fault. I pulled you off your story, but. Okay, let's wrap this up here with locals versus out of state. To me, my biggest fear, going back to the last thing, is if I were going there every single day, I like the way I would hope that a sense of ownership or home would kind of, this is like my happy place and it's just the place that I go and I'm not worried about all the other nonsense that's kind of going around me. Whereas right now, every time you see something when you go down there that just triggers memories because they're so precious because you've been going for 20 years and you've only gone 20 times because let's say you only go once a year for 20 years, right? Whereas you go 20 times in a single month and you don't have those precious not that you don't have precious memories, but the sights and smells don't trigger specific memories as much as somebody that goes very rarely, I would say. Potentially. That's what my thought process anyway.
I will say just with that you're right. Traveling down here, holding on to those memories is a whole lot more important. When I travel to California next month, I'm not getting to California. It's going to be my first trip to Disneyland since March of 2020.
There you go. So a lot of things are going to start flaring off in your brain as you get the sights and the smells, right?
Exactly, because to me, I always say Disneyland is home. But also being a local down here, living in Orlando, I would like to say the tourist capital of America. Mm-hmm. So when I have friends come down here, sometimes it's their first time at the park. And I get to see their first time. Exactly.
That's
I get
awesome.
to see their first times. They get to see me stressing out, trying to give them the best experience possible. But
that's your job as a host.
Yes. It's an absolute blast living down here, but it's also an absolute blast being a Disney traveler as well. And I can't wait to travel to a Disney park I haven't been to in a few years and less than 30 days. Well,
I'm looking forward to it. And the trip report. Have you on with doing a trip report. That should be fun. I want to move to our next topic of our top 5 this week. We've been having fun with these. I think when Phil gets back, he has an idea for a different type of top 5 type of thing. We're going to try that out. So keep your ears tuned, I think, in 2 weeks' time. But that being said, I have Zach here. I chose this topic because I think he could really kind of test these things out. As you've just heard, he comes in and out of the parks whenever he feels like it. So these are going to be our top 5 times of day to be at the parks, right? So this is our favorite, if you're going to be at Magic Kingdom late, make sure you do this. If you're going to be at Hollywood Studios in the morning, make sure you, these type of things. I love being at this specific time or this specific time frame in any of the parks. And Zach, since you are our guest, I'll let you go first, and I promise not to criticize your list too much as you start going off on it. So you don't have to do a particular order. If you've ordered them, you can go 5 to 1, whatever you want to do. It's up to you.
I know everyone can't see the list, but I could see the list, and we have some conflicting things here. So
that's fine.
My number 1 time to be in the parks, and I may have already said it here today, is any of the Disney theme parks at night.
When
the lights come on, when the lights come on, the parks totally transform into something else. Not putting the nighttime shows aside.
Mm-hmm.
We all know everyone loves the nighttime shows, but for example, Magic Kingdom at night, I love walking through Frontierland.
Oh my God, that's my
It
number
is
two.
so
Is that
peaceful.
specific thing? Yep.
It is so peaceful. And then Animal Kingdom at night is the most breathtaking park to be in at night. If you ever have the chance to see that park in the evening hours, it is incredibly beautiful.
I mean, I just want to say,
I'm not in Hall.
I was making my list, and my top 4 right before I started deleting things was Magic Kingdom at night, Toy Story Land at night, blah 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 at night, and I'm like, I can't do this. That's cheating. So I had to refine it. But I like how yours is a catch-all. I mean, like it's wonderful. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Like Epcot at night right now, just walking around World Showcase in the evening, looking in the distance and seeing Spaceship Earth now with those lights on, which I think is the best thing.
Yep.
Best change Disney has done in a long time with those lights on Spaceship Earth. I was hesitant when they first announced it, but boy, is it just incredible to look at every night. So that's my number 1.
All right, what's your number 2? You go straight down your list, and then I'll go.
Okay, number 2 is Animal Kingdom. Kind of like what I just said a little bit there, but I'm making it a little bit different. Arrive around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 3 or 4, and there's some reasoning with that. If you arrive around 3 o'clock, you could see Finding Nemo, The Big Blue and Beyond, see the 5 o'clock Festival of the Lion King if they still are doing that showtime, and then you could usually get the Safari done, Everest, Dinosaur, Navi River Journey, and Flight of Passage done before the park closes at 8. Without Genie Plus, without individual Lightning Lane, and if you are hungry, you could even possibly get a little bit of a break at Nomad Lounge, which is, I believe, the best lounge in any theme park in the world. I absolutely love that place.
Now, I mean, this is good advice, because this is something I've heard a lot of people say. Like, Animal Kingdom can be a half-day park because, depending on how you do it, you can get a lot done in a certain period of time. Now, if you don't mind, quote-unquote, either wasting your hop or wasting your ticket for just going in the evening, like let's say that's like you're doing a resort day, but you want to finish it up at Animal Kingdom, and you have like a 7-day packet of tickets, and that 7th ticket costs you 50 cents, right? That's an excellent, excellent advice. If you want to just do Animal Kingdom just one day during your long vacation, Zach will first have a word with you why you're only doing it once at your long vacation. But you can get
probably
yes,
probably,
but you can get a lot done. Okay, so
I do want to really quickly stress it does also depend on the sunlight, as some of the attractions do close at Animal Kingdom when the sun goes down. So be very stressful if safari is important to you. Might kind of decide when you really want to go.
Yeah,
or how you want to do that strategy, I mean. But anyways, number 3 on my list is Epcot. I have it written as like any time of the day, but either choose morning, afternoon, or evening.
So pick a time.
Exactly. I don't like to spend all day in Epcot. I don't really like to spend all day in one theme park in general. But for example, morning, afternoon, I would kind of try and knock out the top attractions: Ratatouille, Soarin', Frozen, Test Track. Hopefully get a virtual queue for Guardians. If you go in the late afternoon, evening hours, a lot of the classic attractions at Epcot are walk-ons.
Yeah.
Spaceship Earth, Living with the Land. Soarin's usually even a walk-on at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of depends what you want. Like Spaceship Earth, for example, can get that 45-minute wait to start the day, as it's the first attraction everyone sees as they enter the park. But if you wait until 5, 6 o'clock at night, it's a 5-minute wait
just after
almost
lunch.
Every day.
After lunch, it's
Sometimes,
a 10-minute wait. Yep.
Sometimes, yeah. So that's kind of where I'm like, that's why I say Epcot kind of, I would, maybe not times of days to be at the parks. It's more times of the days to strategize what you're doing in the park.
So this is one thing that I like doing. I don't like spending the whole day at Epcot either, because if you're walking around the World Showcase, you're starting to get hot, and you're just putting miles on your feet, and you're going to start getting tired. I think the best strategy right now for Epcot is, if you have Genie Plus, is to rope drop, get Remy's as early as possible, do Remy's Frozen Test Track, and then pick up any of the rides you want. Maybe you have an early virtual queue, early individual lightning lane for Guardians, and then go back to your resort, go anywhere else. Just leave the park, and then come back at like 4, 5, or 6 o'clock. Have like a late lunch, go back to the pool, kind of relax, go do shopping at Disney Springs, do something, and then hit up like the last 3 or 4 hours of the park in the evening, grab some drinks or grab some bites to eat or whatever. And that, to me, is the perfect Epcot day. You do not want to be there in the middle of the day, in my opinion. It's just way too hot, too much construction going on. There's nowhere to kind of relax. So that's actually really good advice. I like that one.
And my number 4 is probably something that most people won't even think of, because I feel like people forget these even exist.
Yeah.
And I think this point is more, I would say, sometimes more gauged towards those annual pass holders that have this sort of annual pass. Mm-hmm. Those of you will understand in a moment. But my number 4 is start at the water parks. And then in the evening or mid-afternoon, when the Florida thunderstorms roll through, leave the water park and head into a theme park.
Now, why do you say that?
I've actually done this a few times this summer, and shockingly, I've really figured out how relaxing it is to just start my day in the water park, float down the lazy river, maybe do a few slides, relax in one of the beach chairs at Typhoon Lagoon. Shockingly enough, there is something at Walt Disney World I've never done, and that is Blizzard Beach. I have never been. I plan to, hopefully someday, but this strategy also, I know we're mostly talking Disney, but I've also done this strategy at Universal with Volcano Bay, and then head into either Islands of Adventure or Universal Studios in the evening. That is like my perfect day for Universal right there. But yeah.
See, I would never do that, only because I think I might try doing that next year if we happen to go down. I've just got a 4-year-old that I don't really want to be babysitting at a water park. I got 2 other kids that are in, swim club, and they're excellent swimmers. I wouldn't have to worry about keeping an eagle eye. But my 4-year-old is becoming a good swimmer, but you have to kind of stand by her. So I don't want to risk that at this point, just because it would be like not a vacation for me at that point, right? I got to play daddy lifeguard. But next year, I definitely want to do this at least once. That's really cool. I like that one.
Yeah, and then my number 5, I actually really struggled finding a 5th point. But I have Magic Kingdom and Hollywood Studios at Rope Drop. I think if you're going to go to Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom, the only way to maximize your time there is to really be there all day and rope dropping. And if I'm going to Magic Kingdom, I'm starting at Big Thunder and Splash Mountain, knocking those 2 right out of the park, right out of the gate, basically. Mm-hmm. As usually you could kind of have some shorter wait times there. Hollywood Studios, this might surprise some people. I'm starting with Tower and Terror and Rock and Roller Coaster.
Then you never have to go back in that direction again for the park, because it's the worst park to navigate, in my opinion.
And also Tower of Terror lately has had some really, really long waits. And I highly recommend starting with Tower of Terror in your Hollywood Studios day. And I know people are probably thinking, why not Mickey and Minnie's? Why not Rise? Why not Slinky Dog? It's a lot easier for me to stand in those lines than in Tower of Terror's line or Rock and Roller Coaster's line.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My personal opinion there.
Well, I mean,
there's a lot more things to look at, a lot more interesting, and
I mean, for those that are planning trips and that are kind of big-time planners, but they haven't crossed the Rubicon of becoming an Uber planner, there's some really cool websites out there, whether you're looking at touring plans or thrillldata.com. You can see how wait times build up and then slow down, or build up and then decrease over time. And you can plan your day accordingly. You can kind of see where the heat map of the park is and where the crowds go. And you take that data, because that data is pretty good, and use that to your advantage of your touring parts. If you can knock out that whole side of the park while everybody's rushing over, as long as you get a good rise individual lightning lane, the longest wait that day is going to be for Slinky Dog, which is probably going to be somewhere between 70 and 90 minutes. And then Mickey and Minnie's never gets a long line towards the end part of the day. At most, maybe 30, 40 minutes.
If you could wait for Mickey and Minnie's until that 4 or 5 o'clock time frame, it's usually very close to being inside the Chinese feeder at that point.
Absolutely. And I saw that myself a month ago. And that hasn't changed at all.
Also, the shortest time for Rise to do standby, in my opinion, has usually been around that 1 o'clock time frame before park hopping happens.
Oh, that's a good piece of advice. I never realized that before. I've either bought it or had a virtual or a boarding group last year when I went. All right, so
that's some things I've heard from, or I'm sorry, that's just some things I've heard from other people. So
we'll have to check that out.
Jason,
okay.
You're up.
Yes, I'm up. Thank you. So my top 5 times to be at the park. I kind of did this trying to avoid park strategy, right? So I'm trying to pick times that if I didn't have to worry, if I was a local, right? We'll tie into our last topic. If I could just go and be in these parts of the park, these are just like my happy places, right? Where I feel, the most love, the warmest, not in temperature, but in my heart. But probably temperature too. My first one is Magic Kingdom on Main Street at 8 o'clock. To me, that's like the calm before the storm, right? You kind of wander in. Hopefully, if you get there early enough, Starbucks line is not that late, and you can actually get your coffee. And if it's too late, I'm never standing in that line. Anyway, you get your pictures done. You can maybe do some shopping if it's not mobbed. You can kind of just stroll up Main Street and look at all the windows and kind of, you're relaxing, right? And that's assuming you're also not a crazy person like me and getting ready to rope drop. You're cramming yourself for that 8:30 drop at, Fantasyland entrance or Tomorrowland entrance right now. But it's relaxing because there's nothing pushing you to a ride. There's nothing you can do but just be in the park. And that's okay. Even if you're an Uber planner where you just can't stop thinking about it, you can't do anything, so you're forced to relax too. And I
know it wasn't necessarily the most relaxing day, but I got some incredible pictures of it. I was actually one of the very, 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 very first people. In fact, I was like the first person in line at one of the turnstiles on Magic Kingdom Walt Disney World's 50th anniversary.
Well, that's awesome.
So I know it was like, I think they opened the gates at like 6:30 in the morning with the park opening up at like 9 still.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, Main Street filled up rather quickly that morning, but just strolling down Main Street, even though there was so many people there and everyone was trying to shop. But I kind of just like took a moment. It was like, I'm on Main Street to start my day.
It centers you.
And it does. It really does. So it feels like home.
Yeah. That's my favorite part on property. So, it's the streets are clean. The sun is just coming up, so it's not 1,000,000 degrees yet. You still have some of the morning dew kind of in the air, and it's just a new day, and you're at the Magic Kingdom, which is you can't blame. So my second one is also at Magic Kingdom, and this ties into one of your first statements. And the moment that brings me up is I love all the parks at night, especially Magic Kingdom, because the park just changes at night. It doesn't matter if there's nothing else going on that's different. The park just changes character at night. And 2 of the nights that we were down there back in July, we were in Frontierland, just like you mentioned, walking from Fantasyland, going towards Splash, and the fireworks were going on. These are the nights that we weren't going to watch Enchantment. And the normal background music is off, and they're playing just some of like the instrumental like Disney favorites. Like you have some of the Rapunzel theme songs going. It just everything. And it's just so relaxed. It's just instrumental music. It's loud enough to be able to hum and sing to, but it's not too loud where that's the only thing that's happening. And everybody's rushing to get to the fireworks, and you can just kind of stroll in the dark. It's cool. It's relaxing, and I just love doing it.
Were you walking on the wooden bridge or the Frontierland pathway?
Actually, we did both. Like one night we went on the pathway, and another night we went on the bridge because first time we went through, there was too many people on it, and we wanted to move a little bit fast because we had something we had to get to. But I love walking on there, and you can kind of almost shut off the whole park, and it's just the water, and that's awesome too. I like that. My number 3, and this is kind of adverse to your Animal Kingdom, but yours is more of a strategy. Mine is more of kind of like a peaceful moment, is Animal Kingdom anywhere in the early morning that's not Pandora, where everybody's rushing to. So when we went down last time, we made basically, instead of going left, we went right through Asia to get over to Expedition Everest. And you can get the sun rising over the water. Again, it's a gorgeous park just to walk through, right? It's my favorite to walk through. But there's nobody around. And it's just the sights, the sounds, the natural environment. There's nothing that can beat that walk. That's just like, if I could just have like that loop around Discovery Island and all the way around and back, and it's just kind of be like, that's my daily walk. I want to walk a mile today. I'm just going to walk around there. There's nothing that beats that path. And I absolutely love that. And I understand why people never see it, because they're busy trying to get on Flight of Passage in the morning because they're there at 7:30 in the morning and they're resort guests. My number 4 is Disney Hollywood Studios 2 minutes before park close and getting on Smuggler's Run. We did that back in September. It might not have been 2 minutes before close. Maybe it was like about 10 minutes before close. And as we were leaving, the park's already emptied out. The lights are on. And we kind of, instead of going the one exit, we went through Toy Story Land so we can see Toy Story Land with the lights on. It's just, you get to see the park. I love the neons as you're leaving the park. The park is absolutely gorgeous at night. I don't like being there early in the morning, but you have to kind of get stuff done. But that park is so chaotic during the day. There's so many dead ends. The navigation's absolutely horrific. But at night, it's a little bit slower. And it feels like not a real park, but it feels like a good park at night, I think, because it has that extra character to it.
I'll be very curious to know what will change with the demographic of Hollywood Studios with the crowd level once Fantasmic returns.
That's a good question. I mean, what's the demographic?
A lot of people right now a lot of people
park
park hop to Epcot and Magic Kingdom for the nighttime shows. Which is why Animal Kingdom, with my strategy coming later, everyone's leaving Animal Kingdom. The park is absolutely beautiful to also walk through during that time as well, because there's not as many people. And then same with Hollywood Studios. I feel like people tend to kind of start to leave that park. And if you're like with your strategy, start like Falcon 10 minutes before close, the majority of the people have maybe already left that area by the time you get off Falcon. So therefore, you're kind of just enjoying this peaceful
and you can get some good pictures
park
too.
as you're leaving. Exactly.
Some really cool Falcon
peaceful
pictures.
Leaving that park and then, yeah.
Sorry, I'm keeping interrupting.
Oh, no, you're good. But also the TIE Fighter.
Yep.
Or getting pictures of that at night. But kind of like what you said earlier, it's just the parks have a different atmosphere when the sun goes down and the moon comes up.
That's it. Yep, I'm totally with you. And then, kind of speaking to that point, this is, I used to be in the parks all day kind of guy, right? Well, we're spending the money. I'm going to be in the parks all day. I've completely changed my mind at that. Number 5 is kind of like the antithesis to this list, because I like you, I struggled to come up with a 5th one that wasn't redundant, and it's like here at night. It's be anywhere but in the parks between 11 and 4 o'clock. And that's a loose time frame. It could be 12 till 2 or whatever. It's the hottest part of the day for the most part, or getting towards being the hottest part of the day. It's the most crowded because everybody's hopping at those times, or people are stuck in the parks because they're waiting to hop. And I've come to realize no matter what I've done in the past, I ended up taking breaks in the middle of the day because I was forced to, either because of rain, or we did lunch somewhere that was like 2 hours, or, the kids were getting cranky or something else like that. Why not listen to other people that are probably smarter than I am and just go back to the resort? And depending on the only park I probably want to go back to the resort is Magic Kingdom, just because, unless I was on the monorail, but Hollywood Studios And Epcot, going back to Caribbean Beach on the Skyliner, is the most amazing thing I've ever experienced at Walt Disney World. Being able to hop on, oh, we're back, 12 minutes. We didn't have to wait for a bus. We didn't have to cram in. It was just nice and peaceful. And being a family of 5, we could probably get a Skyliner all to ourselves, even with some of the new changes that were there. During the middle of the day, it doesn't really make a difference. There's plenty of Skyliners anyway. So that's my favorite thing to be, is at a resort or at a meal midday at some point, and kind of thinking about what I want to do for the night. Okay, go ahead.
I love that point really quick as well, but also kind of going back to a previous conversation, we were talking about locals versus out of state. When I was doing a lot of my planning, when I would come down here and visit, during that time frame is usually when I would plan to do things like the entertainment, or go see like Muppet Vision 3D, go do Carousel Progress, Hall of Presidents, Country Bear Jamboree, the things I know I could get into, but I also know that are nice and cool and air conditioned.
Yep.
So also that's usually when I always have to say it on every single podcast. That's the time I would sit in the American Adventure Pavilion and see the Voices of Liberty all day. So, I mean, just there's different strategies to do that 11 to 4 time frame, and every person's different.
Oh, there's definitely no right way to do it. I mean, it's the right way is your way, and don't let anybody ever change it. But I've evolved on this. You asked me 5 years ago whether or not I would leave the park. I'm like, no, I'm never leaving the park. Now it's just like, yeah, we can go back for a couple hours, and that might be the fact that we went in September, then we went in July, going back in December, and I don't feel like I'm missing as much. And also knowing that I would be doing all this nonsense with Genie Plus, that going back to the resort might give me a nice, good mental health check in the middle of the day to rest my brain. So we were talking about earlier before we started recording that the show, we want to do certain segments for a certain amount of time. We've gone over that time, as we usually do here on the DBC pod. So I want to wrap up the show with a little quick rapid fire of last week's DBC Discord engagement. The question was simply, are you planning to attend either of the holiday parties this year for either Halloween or Christmas? And if you do you schedule a trip around the parties? How do the parties impact your planning, et cetera, et cetera? I'll just say mine first, because we've talked about this already on some of our trip planning with Phil in the last couple of weeks. I am planning to go on one day in Magic Kingdom. I'm using it as a hopper day, so I'll start the day at Animal Kingdom and do my normal thing there and be able to go to the Magic Kingdom at 4 o'clock. It's kind of like not a free hopper pass, but it allows me to get a hopper pass for one day, which I would wish I could be able to do, but you can't when you're buying packages. And the parties basically affect my time. What parks do I go? Because I am not going to Magic Kingdom on a day I have to leave at 4 o'clock if I don't have party tickets. You, sir, are going. So what made your choice of going? And do you have a specific time that you want to go, or just whenever you have an opening in your calendar?
As a local, it'll be when I have an opening. I try to get in usually the August or the early September time frames, as those are the cheapest. However, that is definitely not going to happen this year. It'll probably be either later September or October, due to I'm out of town a lot in September this year. But as I'm also going on the Wish, that's another thing.
We're going to have plenty to talk about in October as you come back.
Yes.
Not well rested. Well, you'll be not well rested because you have to recover from your vacations. You have to vacation from your vacations, I guess, right?
Exactly. But when I did travel down here, I would go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party or Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party, and usually do the whole park hopping aspect, go to Magic Kingdom at 4 o'clock. Here, I'll probably just be home and then go to Magic Kingdom at 4 o'clock. But I usually go to the Halloween parties and the Christmas parties for the entertainment. I will stake out my parade spot for an hour. I will stake out my fireworks spot for an hour and the stage show spot for an hour. And then the rest of the time is trying to meet as many characters as possible. And I also try to see Boo to You twice or the Christmas parade twice. However, for me, I'll probably only go to the Halloween party once. Halloween is not my favorite holiday. However, I am actually going to Oogie Boogie Bash, my first party in California.
Okay.
So that'll be very exciting to attend.
We can compare the two.
I can. And then for me, Christmas being my favorite time in any Disney theme park, I will try and probably get to 2 or 3 parties of that one because I absolutely love that party, and I know it's not the most popular opinion, but I do say Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is better than Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party.
Well, I mean, I can't say from personal experience because I've only done the Halloween party. I did that in 2015, and it's kind of roughly stayed the same since then, COVID years notwithstanding. But I don't have any desire to go back again and spend all that money for my family to see that again. However, Christmas is my favorite holiday. We deck the halls here in the Dodge household, and I've never been in Disney during the Christmas time, so I am super stoked to experience it for the first time. So much so that my wife's like, why don't we go in like mid-January where the crowds are a little bit lower? I'm like, nope, we are going as originally planned in early December because this is on my checklist. I need to check this one off, and maybe we'll do it again every single year. Who knows? So
I'll have so much fun. Festival of Holidays.
Oh, I can't wait. I haven't even begun planning anything on my trip because as we're going to talk more and more about our trip planning when Phil gets back, because he's planning all these extra Christmas things. I haven't even looked into the extra Christmas things that I want to do on my itinerary, so I'm going to have a lot of fun doing that. Before we wrap up, I want to get to some of the other things some of the Discord members have saying in answer to this question. Our good friend Matt of the DCI and the Happily Everything Disney podcast says he's going to be there in December. We're all going to be there at the same time. He's 100% attending the party. He's bought his tickets already. I have not. And he says, as much as I love the attractions, I really dig the unique entertainment that is offered. So he's going to be another guy that's just going to go after all the Christmas offerings and kind of ignore all the rides and all this other stuff, unless he has time for them, right? That's not a priority for him. And he absolutely planned around the party. He's bringing his parents, so he wants them to be there with the Christmas and do the candlelight processional and all this other stuff. So he's kind of going all out. Saints Maniac mentioned that they decided to add the Christmas party because they had a date that worked and it was a quick trip and it allowed them to kind of get an extra park day in there. So she's not going to do any genie, she's not going to do any planning and all this other stuff. She's just going to be able to go have fun and then kind of leave. So I picked that one because here's somebody that's purposely not planning so they can have a nice relaxing day at the Magic Kingdom and not have any kind of we need to get this stuff done. It's just, we're just going to go. We know what to expect and we're going to kind of experience it and be happy with it. The last one is from Mom 22 Girls. She already has tickets for the Halloween party and all that. She's loving. I guess Halloween is her thing. She's really in love with the ambiance and the parades. All the Halloween stuff is really awesome. Excited to go, but also a little nervous about how the crowds might be. The last time I was there, it was dead because of Hurricane Irma was coming in. So I guess that's a good time to go if it doesn't close down the parks all around you. This time before was several years back. We're planning to go to the Christmas party, but don't have tickets yet. So this is somebody that's doubling up on the party, just like yourself. She has never been to the Christmas party, and she doesn't like how it closes early. So, there's a little bit of fear of missing out. So she has some planning to do with regular tickets and the hoppers and all this other stuff, which is a big giant nightmare if you're planning a longer vacation and figuring out how that is. And I very much dislike how Disney forces you to buy hoppers for every single day. I would love the opportunity to be buying hoppers for specific days, even if I have to pay a little bit more money for them as an add-on for the day. But alas, here we are. All right, Zach, we are now recording for 1 hour and 7 minutes. Everybody hates when we go over for 1 hour, so we're going to cut it short here. I want to thank you for coming on.
Can I give one more tip?
Oh, go ahead. Of course.
Sure. In terms of the parties, most people may not realize as out front can get a little bit busy, especially around the time people can get into the parks for the parties. If you are in Magic Kingdom already, there are easier ways to get those wristbands usually inside the park if you're already in. So just my little tip there is If you're in Kingdom, definitely get those wristbands in the park. And you could actually sometimes maximize those parties a little bit easier too, as you may already get your wristbands and you could get in line for, say, Jack Skellington to meet him. So just some small little tips there.
And those usually matter. That's like one extra ride or one extra meet and greet or whatever you want to do before all the kind of crowds start mobbing everything. Next week, we're going to talk about how much is too much for a ticket, right? So we had Bob Chapek talking about rising ticket prices, but they always go up. But how much is too much for a ticket? So we're going to explore what your point of no return is. Like, the tickets are too expensive. I'm certainly never going unless I get a discount type of thing. So we're going to talk about that more next week, and it's going to be on Discord this week. So chime in with what is the most expensive, just normal day ticket that you would actually pay for if you're going down there for a vacation. And Zach, like I was saying before, thank you for coming on. You came on in short notice. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Yep, and I can't wait to hear about D23, the Wish, Disneyland, and all that other trip. I mean, there's going to be multiple shows. We might have to do a bonus episode with you just to get everything out of you that you're about to experience next month. I can't wait for you. Should be fun.
I am so excited.
There we go.
It's been over a year of planning these 2 trips in themselves.
Well, that's the fun part. Now you get to execute on them. That being said, everybody, thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week, and have a good one, everybody. Take care.
Bye, everyone.